Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our online Bhagavad Gita reading retreat lab. So, in the last session, we have seen the verse number 15 to verse number 19, where we have seen different four kinds of impious persons do not surrender to Krishna, and four kinds of pious persons who do so. In today's session, we are going to start with verse number 20 till verse number 25. So here we are going to see demigod worshippers and impersonalists whose surrender is misplaced. With that note, and we will go to the Vedabase and we will start reading from verse number 20, chapter number 7, verse number 20. Translation: those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. Purpose: those who are free from all material contaminations surrender unto the Supreme Lord and engage in his devotional service. As long as the material contamination is not completely washed off, they are by nature non-devotees. But even those who have material desires and who resort to the Supreme Lord are not so much attracted by external nature. Because of approaching the right goal, they soon become free from all material lust. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that whether one is a pure devotee and is free from all material desires, or is full of material desires, or desires liberation from material contamination, he should in all cases surrender to Vasudeva and worship him, as stated in the Bhagavatam, second canto, 2.3.10. So we will read only the translation. Less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desires. Generally, such people do not go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are in the lower modes of nature, ignorance and passion, and therefore pursue various demigods. Following the rules and regulations of worship, they are satisfied. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal. But the devotee of the Supreme Lord is not misguided, because in Vedic literature there are recommendations for worshipping different gods for different purposes. Example: a diseased man is recommended to worship the sun. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes demigods are better than the Supreme Lord. But a pure devotee knows that the Supreme Lord Krishna is the master of all. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 5.142, it is said, Ikale Ishwara Krishna Arasava Vidya. Only the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is master, and all others are servants. Therefore, a pure devotee never goes to demigods for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on the Supreme Lord, and the pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. Now we will move to the next verse, chapter number 7, verse number 21. Translation: I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Purpose: God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigod, the Supreme Lord is super soul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he doesn't interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world and so lets them fall into the trap of illusory energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord is a super soul doesn't give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes. But His ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad Gita, one to give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto him. That will make them happy. Both the living entity and the demigod are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods, as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras, there is scriptures for different modes of worship or different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod. And so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigod cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord or the Super Soul who is present in the heart of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to men to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literature, it is stated the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Super Soul is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. Now we'll move to the next verse, chapter number 7, verse number 22. Translation. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Purpose. The demigods cannot award benedictions to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So the worship of demigods and achievement of desired results are due not to the demigod, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity doesn't know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigod for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefits, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee. A living entity goes to the demigod usually because he is made to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity and the Lord himself doesn't fulfill the desire. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the worship of a demigod cannot be on the same platform because worship of a demigod is material and devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Now we will move to the next verse. Chapter number 7, verse number 23. Translation. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Purport. Some commentators on the Bhagavad Gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the supreme Lord. But here it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to the different planetary systems where various demigods are situated. Just as a worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, or a worshipper of the demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anyone wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain that particular god's planet. If not, it is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the supreme personality of Godhead. That is denied here. For it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to the different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the supreme planet of the personality of Godhead. Here, the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshipping them. However, worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they do not know to what part of the body food must be supplied. Some of them are so foolish that they claim that there are many parts and many ways to supply food. This is not very sanguine. Can anyone supply food to the body through the ears or eyes? They do not know that. These demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. And in their ignorance, they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and a competitor of the Supreme Lord. Not only are the demigods parts of the Supreme Lord, but ordinary living entities are also. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the Brahmanas are the head of the Supreme Lord. The Kshatriyas are his arms, the Vaishyas are his waist, the Sudras are his legs, and all serve different functions regardless of the situation. If one knows that both the demigods and he himself are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, his knowledge is perfect. But if he doesn't understand this, he achieves different planets where the demigods reside. This is not the same destination the devotee reaches. The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable because within this material world, the planets, the demigods, and their worshippers are all perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by worshipping demigods are perishable, and therefore such worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Because the pure devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal blissful existence that is full of knowledge, his achievements, and those of the common worshipper of the demigods are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, his favor is unlimited, his mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. Now we will move to the next verse, chapter number 7, verse number 24. Translation. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Purport. Those who are worshippers of demigods have been described as less intelligent persons, and here the impersonalists are similarly described. Lord Krishna, in his personal form, is here speaking before Arjuna, and still, due to ignorance, impersonalists argue that the Supreme Lord ultimately has no form. Jamunacharya, a great devotee of the Lord, in the disciplic succession of Ramanujacharya, has written a very appropriate verse in this connection. He says, we will read only the translation part. My dear Lord, devotees like Yasudev and Narad know you to be the personality of Godhead. By understanding different Vedic literatures, one can come to know your characteristics, your form, and your activities, and one can thus understand that you are the supreme personality of Godhead. But those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, the demons, the non devotees, cannot understand you. They are unable to understand you. However expert such non-devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and the Upanishads and other Vedic literatures, it is not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. Sutra Ratna 12. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the personality of Godhead cannot be understood simply by study of the Vedanta literature. Only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord can the personality of the Supreme be known. Therefore, in this verse, it is clearly stated that not only are the worshippers of the demigods less intelligent, but those non-devotees who are engaged in Vedanta and speculation on Vedic literature without any sense of true Krishna consciousness are also less intelligent. And for them, it is not possible to understand God's personal nature. Persons who are under the impression that the absolute truth is impersonal are described as Avodaya, which means those who do not know the ultimate feature of the absolute truth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that supreme realization begins from the impersonal Brahman and then rises to the localized super soul. But the ultimate word in the absolute truth is the personality of Godhead. Modern impersonalists are still less intelligent, and for they do not even follow their great predecessor Shankaracharya, who has specifically stated that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Impersonalists, therefore, not knowing the supreme truth, think Krishna to be only the son of Devaki and Vasudev, or a prince or a powerful living entity. This is also condemned in the Bhagavad Gita 9.11. Avajananti mama mudha manushyan tanum ashritam. Only the fools regard me as an ordinary person. The fact is that no one can understand Krishna without rendering devotional service and without developing Krishna consciousness. The Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 10.214.29 confirms this. Will it only the translation? My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight twist of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of a personality. But those who speculate to understand the supreme personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. One cannot understand the supreme personality of Godhead Krishna or his form, quality, or name simply by mental speculation or by discussing Vedic literature. One must understand him by devotional service when one is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, beginning by chanting the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Then only can one understand the supreme personality of Godhead. Non-devotee impersonalists think that Krishna has a body made of this material nature and that all his activities, his form, and everything are Maya. These impersonalists are known as Mayavadis, who do not know the ultimate truth. The 20th verse clearly states, Kamaistai sar jnana prapajyanti ma devata. Those who are blinded by lust desires surrender unto the different demigods. It is accepted that besides the supreme personality of Godhead, there are demigods who have their different planets, and the Lord also has a planet. As stated in the 23rd verse, Devan Deva Jayo Yanti Madhakta Yanti Mam. The worshippers of the demigods go to the different planets of the demigods, and those who are devotees of the Lord Krishna go to the Krishna Lok planet. Although this is clearly stated, the fullest impersonalist still maintains that the Lord is formless and that these forms are impositions. From the study of the Gita, does it appear that the demigods and their abodes are impersonal? Clearly, neither the demigods nor Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, are impersonal. They are all persons. Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he has his own planet, and the demigods have theirs. Therefore, the monistic contention that ultimate truth is formless and that form is imposed doesn't hold true. It is clearly stated here that it is not imposed. From the Bhagavad Gita, we can clearly understand that the forms of the demigod and the form of the Supreme Lord are simultaneously existing, and that Lord Krishna is Sachidananda, eternal blissful knowledge. The Vedic literature confirms that the supreme absolute truth is knowledge and blissful pleasure. Vijnanam Anandam Brahma, Brihad Aranyak Upanishad 3.9.28, and that he is a reservoir of unlimited auspicious qualities. Ananta Kalyana Gunatma Sau, Vishnu Purana 6.5.84. And in the Gita, the Lord says that although he is Aja, Anvan, he still appears. These are the facts that we should understand from the Bhagavad Gita. We cannot understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be impersonal. The imposition theory of the impersonalist monist is false as far as the statements of the Gita are concerned. It is clear herein that the Supreme Absolute Truth, Lord Krishna, has both form and personality. Now we'll move to the next verse. Chapter number 7, verse number 25, translation. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Purport. It may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone when he was present on this earth, how can it be said that he is not manifest to everyone? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present here, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of Kurus, when Shishupal spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported him and proclaimed him to be the Supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the Supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as a reservoir of all pleasure, but to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his internal potency. In the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.19, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yogamaya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. This Yogamaya curtain is also confirmed in the Upanishad, Mantra 15, in which the devotee prays. So we'll read only the translation. O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yogamaya. The Brahma Yoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Sachidananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his transcendental form of bliss and knowledge is covered by the internal potency of the Brahmayotir, and the less intelligent impersonalist cannot see the Supreme on this account. Also, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, 10.14.7, there is this prayer by Brahma. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mysteries, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world? You are always expanding your internal potency, and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world or even the planet, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency, although you are present before them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is not only unborn but also abhyaya, inexhaustible. His eternal form is bliss and knowledge, and his energies are all inexhaustible. Now we will go to the mind map again. So we have covered today the verse number 20 till verse number 25. So just to summarize, so we have seen in the verse from verse number 20 to verse number 23, it describes the less intelligent person who worships the demigod for any kind of material gain. And again, from verse number 24 to verse number 25, we have seen it describes the impersonalist who surrender to the formless aspect of Krishna. So they think Krishna is formless. They cannot see Krishna who covers himself from their reason. So we'll stop here. In the next session, we will start with the last section of this chapter. That is from verse number 26 till verse number 30. Hare Krishna.